that I am an engineer. I actually got my bachelor's degree, went out and worked for 4 years, got my PE license, which I think is key. I greatly encourage that. And then went back for my master's degree and shifted into transportation. My company works solely in the transportation world. We're a consulting company, smallish, 300 people. Our clients are the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and various state departments of transportation. And my day-to-day work world is pretty much in 3 buckets. I do technical work, so I work on projects. A typical project might be, I'm working on a real exciting project in New York City right now with connected vehicles, intelligent transportation, where vehicles start to talk to each other on the roadside. We're equipping 8,000 taxis, 700 buses, and running them on 4 avenues in Manhattan to test the connected vehicle technologies. So it's a real cutting edge project. So day to day, I have a certain aspect of my day-to-day work which is technical. I also do project management, so I need to manage budgets and time and schedule to make sure that the project is hitting its milestone, that we're making money, and that quality is being delivered to the client. And then a third area is that I have corporate responsibilities because I have age in my company. So I have certain responsibilities in looking out for the strategic direction of the company, mentoring our good employees, and then pathways to success. I would say getting your PE license. In addition to that, I have another certification called a PMP, which is a project management professional. So it's understanding corporate or government contracting and the principles of good management that the government expects. Meeting a lot of good people in my career. You all have gone through a very rigorous program here at Purdue. You should be very, very proud of it. It will serve you well. My words of advice are to work hard and be proactive, be a good person, and you'll be successful.
Have been with Trimble for 23 years. Trimble started as a GPS company. Now we do everything from automate dozers to motor graders to excavators. So if you see any major construction project, you usually see some level of automation. You'll see that the industry is becoming more and more automated. Prior to working for Trimble, I worked 10 years for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Started working there from an engineering aspect, and then moved more to a technology-based company, being Trimble. I think the 2 words of advice. Last time I was in this room, I was a TA for C203 that all of you would have had to take, which most of you probably didn't like taking. It gives you a background that the surveying course actually is useful, guys. You'll find it very, very useful as you move on in your civil engineering degree, and it's actually advanced quite a bit from the technology aspect. But the biggest change is the diversity that I see in this room. When I was a TA, this room was packed because it was required. It was mostly white males. So I think one thing you're going to find is diversity in all aspects of engineering equals strength. And I really ask you to promote diversity. So that would be one piece. And then the second is mentorship. Both you as a mentor, as well as how I got here is through mentorship, whether it be through my various professors here at Purdue, who I'm still very, very close to, as well as mentors throughout my career, both at the Corps of Engineers as well as here. So take advantage of those mentors. Your companies that you go to may or may not have a formal mentor program, but I guarantee you there will be people who are willing to mentor you. Don't think you know everything. Spend time listening to them and growing. And you're in the best career in the world and the greatest university. So thank you.
Very good.
I went to Purdue. I graduated in 2000. I did the Navy ROTC program. Some of you see people on, I don't know if Thursdays is still the day that you walk around campus in uniform and these slick shoes and slip in the ice in the winter, but I did that. I graduated. I got commissioned in the United States Navy. So at that time, I had to go line officer first, which means I had to either drive a ship, fly a plane, or go underwater in a submarine. I chose to drive a ship. So I was on a surface warfare, I was on a destroyer. It was the USS Spruance out of Mayport, Florida. This is the time when 9/11 happened, and I don't even want to know if you guys remember 9/11 or not. But 9/11 happened while I was on the ship. We went over to the Mediterranean, and we did patrol ops at that point. I did that for 2 years, and then I lateral transferred to what we call the Civil Engineer Corps in the United States Navy. If anybody has seen the Seabees doing construction or CEC officers around the world for the Navy, we're the only branch of the service that has an active duty service unit that can do both horizontal and vertical construction. And so I've gotten to lead those people doing that over the last 17 years. From Mayport time, I went to Great Lakes. We have a naval base there at Great Lakes. That's the only A school for the Navy where we train all our enlisted troops. And I ran over $40 million worth of construction as my first engineering job ever. And I was the construction manager. We had a cogen plant project, a electrical redistribution project, and a couple, like a ball field. I think I had 5 different areas of projects that I was running. From that, I got the Navy to pay for my master's. I went to the University of Texas, and I went into environmental water resources. I focused on water resources. I did that for 1 year, got paid, got to enjoy Austin. If anybody's been to Austin, it's a fun place to go. No responsibilities, no kids. It's great. Then I went to Port Hueneme, California, which is in between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. And I was with Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 4. I was a company commander, and I was the intel officer. And we did manage projects, and we went to Iraq. And we went and did a bunch of projects in Iraq. We mainly did road repair. We built police operation stations. We built a couple of water systems to put in. I had one guy come to me and goes, "Ma'am, I can't fix that electrical." And I go, "Why?" "There's no ground." I go, "What?" So they had some simple issues of grounding, putting in rewiring of construction projects that they had to deal with. From there, I went to Naples, Italy, and I was there as the assistant regional engineer for all of the Navy bases in Europe, Africa, and Southwest Asia. And I was responsible for all the programming, planning, and budgeting. So figuring out what projects we needed to do, what the requirements were for both current year and out 5 years. And we did that. From there, I went to Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 5 out of Port Hueneme again. I got to spend 6 years. Oh, I forgot one in there. Think about that. I was there for 2 years. I was the executive officer of 580-person CB battalion. We went and deployed to Okinawa, and we were spread across 13 different countries in the Pacific. Some of our keynote projects is we got to build 13 water wells in Cambodia. We had to figure out how to put a bridge up, so listening to your bridge project in the Philippines with concrete that is less than desirable, and try to figure out how to do the abutments with poor concrete. And a bunch of projects in Timor-Leste, which is near Australia and Indonesia. We put in an orphanage and a schoolhouse and a bunch more that we did all over the Pacific. The job that I missed is I went to the Center for Seabees and Facilities Engineering, and I was the director of training and operations for all of the Navy Civil Engineer Corps officer, enlisted Seabees, and facilities engineers. So I ran that schoolhouse, ran all that program, and oversaw what training we would be doing for the Navy, for that area of the Navy. After the XO, I went to the Pentagon, 5-sided crazy puzzle house. And trust me, it's a crazy puzzle house. There's 26,000 people in that building. So imagine a lot of people from campus in a much smaller space. And I ran all of the base operating support programming strategic direction requirements for the Navy for 71 installations and a $6 billion budget. From there, I went to Naval Facilities Engineering Command Headquarters, which is located in Washington at the Washington Naval Yard. And I've been working for the Navy's Chief of Civil Engineers. I've been working as his manpower, personnel training, and education kind of rep for what we need to do for our community, looking at diversity, where we need to put the billets, what programs we need to put in place, what training, what grad school programs will we send our officers to, and a whole laundry list of things that go with that. In June, I'll be transferring with my family to Yuma, Arizona. And you wonder, why is a Navy person going to the middle of the desert? So the Marine Corps doesn't have any civil engineers, and the Navy provides that for them. So I will be going there as their base director of installation and logistics. So I will be running all the public works, the armory, and their housing on the entire base. So my advice to you is, one, never lose your integrity. You can't get it back once it's gone, so don't lose it. Number two, you build relationships. That's how I've succeeded. It's not because I'm smart or I do the other thing. It's because of the relationships and people that I work with to get it done. Never burn a bridge. You never know who's going to be on the other side when you need them to help you. So don't burn a bridge and keep those good relationships. And then the other thing that I would say is, even if you don't physically sit with a pencil and do engineering, the critical skill set that you learned from Purdue and I learned was how to problem solve. You're given a task and you're an engineer because you know how to problem solve. You know how to take something and figure it out one way or another, where it's building a team, whether it's putting it together, you think strategically, you have those critical skill sets. And problem solving is going to help you succeed along with maintaining your integrity.
So Al Dousman, I'm with Bechtel, and I've been with Bechtel for 38 years. So I can't remember all of my assignments. Won't even begin to try that. But right now I'm a project engineer down on our project in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is a $6.5 billion project. And I'm a project engineer in the engineering quality group. Prior to that, I was the discipline manager for the civil structural architectural group, which meant anything to do with the civil aspect of it, the structural aspect of the project, and the civil all came through me. So 165 people reported to me for a while, which was very interesting because you got many bosses between other project engineers, project managers, the client. Right now, I'm in project engineering and the engineering quality. You talked about integrity, engineering quality. You know, that's a big thing. Project needs to follow procedures and all that. And one of the successes that I've had is this wasn't exactly something I wanted to do, but because of my experience in Bechtel, experience in past projects and everything, experience in the home office in terms of the functional group, they asked me to take this on. And I said, okay, fine, I'll take on the challenge. So that's one thing I've done before. You know, there's maybe something out there you really don't want to do, but there's an opportunity there, so grab it and take it. The other thing I'd like to mention in terms of success, I second the PE license.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and, well, I'll second a lot of what else has been said to it. I'll stick with the PE license because I've actually worked on projects for Bechtel because I was the one that had the PE license. So, you know, that's a feather in your cap. And the sooner you qualify for it, the sooner you get it, the sooner that's going to be a credential you'll always have.
Don't leave here without taking the EIT.
Yeah.
Do not leave here without taking the EIT. You don't know how many people can't succeed because they didn't take the EIT.
William.
Well, this was the last class I had at Purdue, and I was the contractor for the team. I had to put a schedule and budget together, and I waited till the last minute, and I remember working on the schedule all night. Supposed to take off with my friends to go see the Kentucky Derby right before graduation, and unfortunately I missed the Kentucky Derby. So the first piece of advice is don't procrastinate. I left here, went to work for a family business. We are a medium-sized construction contractor, very small compared to Bechtel, and but everyone is. And we do about $250 million a year of work, mostly water-related in California. Wastewater, water treatment plant. We do underground water banking, pipeline, pumping stations, a lot of, and we do other things besides water, a little bit of alternative energy. I came out of school, went to work as a project engineer, project manager, in an era where in our company it was a you bid it, you build it philosophy. So, and we would typically, smaller jobs at that point in our company, do 4 or 5 projects a year, and you know, I got to learn everything from bidding a project into managing. I think the key to some early success I had as a project manager was kind of knowing what I did well, knowing what I could contribute to a team, and knowing what I didn't do well, and supporting those in our team that with what they were doing. I can't drive a nail straight if I had to, but I can figure out how long it will take to do a project a lot better than the foreman can, and it's math. It's, you know, I know productivity rates, the foreman don't know the productivity rates. So, and I found that as a project manager, to be successful, all I had to do is make sure the craftsmen had the materials and the tools that they needed, and to try to keep the engineer out of their way if I could. So from project manager, I went on to be a division manager, which a division manager was a really challenging point in my career, because at that point, I'm having to think big picture strategic while still being involved in the details. And I actually struggled a lot at that point, because it really had a demand pulling in different directions. Been president of one of our subsidiaries, managing our whole construction operation until about 10 years ago. And at this point, related to construction, I'm pretty much, I'm a director, represent the parent company, and I get to do a lot of, did you think about this? Should we strategy? What should we be doing to make our company stronger and better in the future, and make sure that our company's 72 years old, and make sure we can last a couple more generations. So a lot of strategy. I really enjoy that. Piece of advice, and you've had wonderful advice so far, but one of the keys to being successful is communication. And you need to communicate with everyone. So one of the things I push in our company is no bad news by email. Emails get so easily misunderstood. So you really, if there is some bad news, go see the person first. Communicate it verbally. It is so easy to get in this email war back and forth. That is very dangerous. Communication is key to people working together. English is critical. And for those of you, engineers typically struggle in English. For those of you that struggle a little bit with it, there's hope. I had Professor Wood here for my wood class in materials. One of the things they did is they took one of our papers and sent it to the English department, and I got to know how to do remedial English. So for those of you who struggle with it, there is hope. Anyway, communication is key.
So it's kind of the philosophy of always do what's right, even if it's not easy. Sometimes you can be forced to change, whether you know that you could go and the person is doing something wrong and no one's calling them out on it, whether it be personal behavior, whether it be solving the engineering problem and not adding rebar. I mean, why would you do that? But that happens. Those kind of things. You know it's wrong. You never want to lose that, because that's your reputation. That's your name. And if your name gets destroyed, you cannot rebuild it. So if you look at politics, and it's dirty as crud going on right now, right? But the minute you destroy your own name, that's what you have to live with for the rest of your life. So you never want that at jeopardy, ever. Always do what's right and what you believe in.
People that get involved, because our job as civil engineers is to deliver projects to the best value, solve problems most economically, and that is best done when we work together as teams. Whether it's the design engineer, the contractor, the operator, but the foundation for that is trust
And transparency.
and transparency. And once that trust is broken, it can't be repaired.
Mine was my senior design class, but I didn't have the same senior design. So at that time I did environmental, and we had 3 teams in the class. I was on the reverse osmosis team, and we did a competition, and we went down to, work, I think it was at the time, and we won number 1, and each team won for Purdue down in New Mexico State. So we competed against all the other universities, but it was you give me a problem. It was no longer that teaching aspect. It was, you gave me a problem, we go figure out how to solve it, and that was fun.
The last one I took in the summer, which is probably why in a way, right? There was only one class in the summer.
Right, that's probably true.
But it was, as I recall, it was the concrete bridge design class. And that was interesting to all the different aspects of concrete bridge, whether it's arch, straight beam, and all that. And, like I said, I've worked for Bechtel for 38 years, so we really didn't have computers back when I went to school here. So it was a lot of fun learning all the different techniques, how you can make your computations easier.
Indeed. Family business.
So family business is the absolute best and absolute worst. I have had opportunities to do things at younger ages than I would probably have possibly had any other way. So that's fantastic. There are, I think that there are frustrations. And this is telling on myself a little bit, but when I first became president of the company, I was reporting to my father. And so I'm in my mid-30s, he's in his mid-50s, and we got into the most awful fights for a while. And he would, and it was so silly because we were in agreement on strategy. And then we would fight afterwards on the why. And that was a point in my life where I couldn't let it go. Today we get along absolutely. So we put, that lasted about 6 months, and we put someone in between us. So that the lesson is don't report to your dad too early. Right now we work fine, and I actually put a lot of my time and effort right now into developing our next generation, working with the family council. We are doing a lot of things that you need to do to keep a family business together, and there are amazing opportunities and also a lot of pride in having the name and being out there and building on something my grandparents started. I hope that answers the question.
I spent the better part of 4.5 years on an interchange design. So taking it from a very preliminary planning study through the actual design and got to see it then be constructed. Oftentimes infrastructure projects are very long haul projects. And I was with that company long enough to really see it from its conception through being able to drive on it when I drive through Kansas City. And I always think it's really cool because I look at the cracks on the road, the expansion joints, and it's like, I drew these. So to really see and live a project that you drove is exciting.
What about worst?
Oh gosh. Worst would be a fairly recent project with the Federal Highway Administration where we had a zealous manager that reported to me that overpromised the client, and we got extremely crosswise on budget and being able to deliver the product with the money that we had, and the money wasn't there. And I needed to go to the client to say, we didn't manage this project well and we need help. And it was really a very beneficial experience in my career because the government wasn't evil. We sat at the table and talked through what happened, and they gave a little, we gave a little, and we got the project done, and I was extremely happy when the project was delivered.
The best project, because now I don't do as many projects that do more leadership and management, was when I was at Great Lakes managing the $34.5 million cogen project. And kind of back to Aaron's point, I was there when we did it was a design bid build project. So it was a design build project, so they got to build it, and we awarded it for them building, designing it, and then constructing it. And I got to be there through the whole process in 2 years. So that was pretty cool because when I got on, I got the project. We had a lot of challenges with that project because we had an existing power plant that had to be maintained. We could not lose power to the base. And rehab and take out 2 old boilers to put in 2 new cogen type boilers, along with all the steam lines on the base. And the base at Great Lakes is older than World War II. Things like lead, asbestos. Oh wait, let's dig in the ground and there's a random tank. What do you do with it? So I learned a lot. Found out a lot of things that go with that. Air emissions, because now you're changing the emissions on the base for the permit. So how do you do that? That was very weird. But we made it through, and I got to see the ribbon cutting. And then I transferred and went to grad school. So that was awesome. Worst, actually probably the worst thing that I tried to do, but we made out was just, and I don't want to say it was worse, but for the last 2 years, I was stationed at the Pentagon, and I was the Navy shore rep for Task Force Cyber Awakening. And we were worried about cyber threats for your industrial control systems. So all of your direct digital controls, your SCADA systems, everything that you have on your installations, and those are probably your big soft targets, right? And how do you get into them? And we didn't know what the heck we were doing. I am not a cyber expert. So I was learning cyber, and we were trying to figure out how to quickly secure our critical assets. And then you realize that people are still writing passwords on the wall. So it doesn't matter if you secure it if they're going to write the password on the wall. So little things like that, but we made it through, and we came up with a strategic plan for the Navy to secure it.
So in terms of the worst project, what I'm going to mention is the very first one I worked on. And it wasn't because it wasn't a good project or anything, but it never got finished. So it's one of those where the client pulled the plug on it, before it got finished. That's what really made it the worst. Because as a civil engineer, you want to build things. That's why I got into this, so I could see things. So that was, in a way, like the worst project. A lot of fun. Had a lot of good memories from coworkers from that project, which leads into the best project I think I've ever had. Bechtel's big, but actually the best project I've had was a $50 million plant in Salisbury, North Carolina, where the product of the plant was to make the cord that goes into tires, reinforces the tire. And what made that project fun was it was a focused, short time frame, and you had a great team of guys working on it, and the client was the best client I've ever worked for, and it was really fun.
I had 5 years out of school. I had an $11 million wastewater treatment plant, which I assume would be 60 or 70 million today. I had there was about 3 or 4 months between the time the project bid and before the project started, so I actually had a lot of time for pre-planning, which was unusual and absolutely wonderful. And at the time, I had never been on a large concrete project, so I pulled out the textbooks on formwork design, learned how to do some formwork design, and we actually came in with concrete productivity that was 15-20% below what we had ever done before. Had a wonderful team on the project. I actually had a relationship with the inspector, which was he became a friend. For a while, we commuted to the project together, and he taught me how to read electrical drawings, which I've long forgotten since then. It was a fun project. It was rewarding. It was the most successful project our company had ever had at that time. So that one felt really good. I guess your first success like that becomes pretty memorable. Worst one, again, I talked about being a division manager struggling. I had a project in San Luis Obispo, lots of design issues, poor collaboration with the engineer and owner on how to resolve them and fix them. A project manager on our side who was in over his head and was reporting his progress on the project probably about 10% further along than it actually was, so that I did not catch the fact that it was going to be a big loser for us till it was too late to do anything about it. And I still remember that one.
Introduce myself that the Purdue program is rigorous. It's tough. Congratulations to everyone that's graduating and moving on. You have gotten through a very tough program, and your colleagues and the folks that you're going to work with may not have the rigor and tenacity that you have, and that will serve you very well. Work hard, and those problems get solved because of your engineering experience here at Purdue.
Wonderful. Okay.
I would echo that. It's kind of what I said at the opening. problem-solving skill set. That's a foundation that you've been doing. Is what'll make you succeed.
Okay.
I ended up with a really broad program at Purdue outside of engineering, where I got the economics, and I spent a lot of time since 2007 trying to figure out where everything they taught me at the economic school was wrong. But I think classes that I've really utilized a lot non-technical for construction law and accounting. And if you're moving up to management, accounting is absolutely critical. You've got to be able to read a financial statement and understand that type of thing. And then I believe a well-rounded person, history and just reading helps you communicate and solve people problems. So, which is absolutely correct. So, I think you go around it is very helpful.
Okay. Well, we've kind of run out of time, but our alums have come to us this morning from all over the United States. So let's thank them for coming in and talking.